Hi everyone, Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and iOS 26 has been out for almost 1 day. And in this video, I'm going to talk about my favorite features in that update because this update is quite huge. Now, before we get started with talking about my favorite features in iOS 26, I will mention that I am currently not running the iOS 26 beta. I will be installing the public beta at some point, but I'm going to talk about some of my favorite features that are in iOS 26. And I'm going to start off with the home screen. And since I'm not running the iOS 26 beta, at least I'm not running it as of yet, I do have pictures that I will show off, screenshots that I took while I was watching an iOS 26 video of what new features are in that update. And we have some improvements to the home screen. If we look closely here, there is a glass sort of appearance. If I go into an app folder on iOS 18, you barely can see the other app. Let me turn on light mode so it's at least more noticeable. If we go into an app folder here, it's a nice large blur. You don't get any sort of glass appearance like you do in iOS 26. Whereas in this image, you can see part of the Photos app. It has that glass sort of effect to it. And that is a really nice change in iOS 26. And that's not the only change that is in that update. Along with the home screen, when going to customize, looking at it from here, you have your light, dark mode, but there is also a new clear option. Looking at it on iOS 18, you have light, dark, automatic, and tinted. And your small and large icons are at the top. Well, here in iOS 26, they moved them. You don't have an option that says small anymore. You have a large icon, but that button is somewhere on the right from the videos I've watched. And you have options at the bottom. They've changed the wording on here. So instead of it saying light, dark, and automatic, it now says always have your icons in dark mode, which is basically manually selecting dark mode and never turning it off, or auto, which is having it set to when you go into dark mode, your icons are dark. When you go into light mode, your icons are light. I believe that's what that is in iOS 26. So that's a really nice and great change. There is also more features to take a look at, like this new clear mode. Unfortunately, because I'm not running the beta, I cannot show you this as of yet. But when I install the public beta, I will make sure that I show it to you if I install the public beta. Well, we don't entirely have a new control center because let's be completely honest. The control center got updated in iOS 26 or iOS 18 rather. Last year brought one of the biggest redesigns to the control center. We had circular icons and the ability to have multiple pages. But in iOS 26, when you access the control center, it no longer blurs your wallpaper. It no longer does that. What it now does is it makes your wallpaper a little darker and you kind of have a little bit of that glass effect. Now, I didn't mention this before, but in iOS 26, every time you go into an app, I've noticed this in a lot of videos I watch. The swipe up navigation bar, the one that's used to swipe home when you're in an app, to swipe from the notification center, and also you use it to swipe into your app switcher, that now disappears after a few seconds of inactivity. While that's nothing new for some apps and video games, it never happened in all apps. Well, in iOS 26, every time you go into any app, it will disappear completely within a few seconds of inactivity. That is a nice change that Apple has pulled off in the new iOS 26. Now, we have some more updates to mention in this update. And one of those updates, there is an update to Image Playground. At least the icon has been heavily updated. Developer and Apple Vision Pro also got updates. Also, in iOS 26, if you go to the lock screen, I absolutely love this change. You now have the ability to make the time really large. I wish that would have been a feature on iOS 16 since it introduced lock screen customization. But unfortunately, it's not possible to make the lock screen large. I mean, while iOS 17 introduced this sort of slider where you can like slide to make the time small or big, there is no option to drag the time down and make it extend. Well, in iOS 26, I'm here to tell you that that option is now available. And from the videos that I watch, I absolutely love the fact that you can do that. And I also really love the iOS 26 wallpaper. While they've removed all 4 of the iOS 18 wallpapers, including the yellow, purple, azure wallpaper, comment down below if I said that correctly. That's basically blue, as well as the pink wallpaper in iOS 18 in favor of a blue and green and white wallpaper in light mode and a blue, green, and black wallpaper in dark mode. Also, you have an update to battery. You have this new feature called adaptive power. I did not know what it was at first. Essentially, what it does is when your iPhone is low, it can extend your battery life at 20% low power mode will enable. Those are really nice features. The camera app gets a redesign. You have your options for the camera on the bottom. Video, photo, slow-mo, selfie, all those other options are on the bottom rather than being on the top. Your shutter and video button are above those 2 toggles. This is personally, for some people, will be their favorite change. I love it as well. But I love the original Photos app or the current Photos app. While I know a lot of people didn't like it because they didn't like scrolling up in a single view, they kind of missed the simplicity, the simpleness of the current Photos app. Well, in iOS 26, Apple has answered those people's questions who were frustrated with the current Photos app. While not entirely a complete rollback to iOS 17, we now have a version of the old Photos app. You still have your account in the top right corner where you can see your different options like photos, photo syncing, and I'm also out of iCloud storage, but that's nothing new. I've been out of it for a couple months. You can see your different settings. You can search. But now you can scroll to the right and you have your collections. So that's a really nice change in iOS 26. In Safari, the tab bar is now floating. And this is another way to mention that. In a video I made yesterday, I mentioned that it has skin around it. There isn't anything around the tab bar. It's actually floating. Just like in the early iOS 15 betas. Just like in the early iOS 15 betas, the tab bar in iOS 26, it's floating. Now here in iOS 18, it's not floating. We have our tab menu, our share button. We have books. and all of our options. But in iOS 26, it's completely floating. Phone app gets a massive redesign. I'm not going to go into my phone app, but you now have those same options that you have in mail, category list view type of buttons. Well, they're not exactly called that, but you can switch to different views here. I believe I can't quite tell, but that could be classic. I'm not entirely sure. You have another one. And there's also some features in the phone app. You have this feature called Call Assist. Essentially what that is, or Hold Assist, I mean. But what that is if you're on hold in a phone call and you go to leave the phone app, say you're on a call and you go to do other things, you will get a notification letting you know someone's answered your phone call. That's a new feature called Call Assist. That is new in iOS 26. You also have backgrounds in iMessage. I mentioned that in my video. Both a new video game app and a preview app. Here's the video games app. And then here's the preview app. When taking a screenshot, you can get visual intelligence-like features, but this is kind of like Google Gemini. I didn't show this in a video, but Google Gemini, when you screen record, Google Gemini can identify everything that's on your screen. There was a good reason why I couldn't show it off in a screen recorded video, because when I'm screen recording, Gemini has to use my screen recorder instead of photos. So I could start a screen recording on the iPad and I could show you guys how it works on there. Comment down below if you want to see that video and I will upload it. Now there is some features on the iPad I will mention. While I didn't do a separate video for the iPad, I probably will. But I will quickly mention some features on the iPad as well. Again, while I didn't make a separate video for iPad, iPadOS 26 also has some features that's worth mentioning. Now, I don't have any screenshots of these features as of yet, but what I can tell you, in iPadOS 26, whenever you now go into an app, and this is the case on all iPads, it doesn't matter what iPad you have. I even saw this on an iPad mini. You now have Stage Manager, or at least what Apple is calling window management. This is new in iPadOS 26, and more importantly, it's new for all iPads. Now, this is my iPad Air from 2020. You guys already know that. So if you were to go into an app, you now can open it up in a window. I've always wanted this to be on the iPad. Apple's never added it. When they added it to the iPad Pro from 2018 in iPadOS 16.1. Well, now we finally have it in iPadOS 26. We don't have it entirely where you can have up to 8 apps. I believe Apple added it with some limitations, but you do have the new window management system in iPadOS 26, along with your updated glass design, liquid glass, with your clear icons. Everything from iOS 26 carries over to iPadOS 26. Oh, and I forgot to mention the phone app. I forgot to mention this in my iOS 26 video from yesterday, but the phone app is not only available on the iPad. If you haven't seen the keynote, the phone app is available on macOS Tahoe, which is the new name for macOS 26, and also iPadOS 26. How does it work? You have to have continuity camera from your iPhone. So you now have the phone app in iOS 26. And you also have the magnifier app in macOS Tahoe as well. As far as any other features in iOS 26, well, those are pretty much all the features that I've mentioned. We have some small redesigns, but the first time you update to iOS 26, I've seen this in the video, you will get the hello screen, but it does look a little bit different. Instead of you getting the hello screen and it draws out the word hello, which it still does that, it now draws out the word hello in a different sort of color. It draws out the word hello, and when you go through your different processes, like when you go through the sort of setup process, when you typically get the hello screen whenever you do a software update, when it says welcome to iPhone, it now says that in that sort of animation where it draws out the hello screen. If I install the iOS 26 public beta and I get the hello screen, I'll make sure I record it for you guys, and I will show it in a video. I'll airdrop it to my iPhone if it'll allow me to do so, or I'll merge it in CapCut and I'll show it at the start of the video after I do my intro, and I'll show you guys the new hello screen. As far as anything else with iOS 26, well, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty big update. There's lots more to cover. That's all I know in the update. I have to do more research on the update, but it is quite a massive update. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making the video. If you did, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok. The name of my channel was Hawkins Tech. I'm Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and I'll see you guys later.